So today I'm joined by ex-zookeeper and professional photographer Geoff Read to discuss his new book, Earwigs to Rhinos. I wondered if you just wanted to start off by giving us an overview of what the book is about.
Yeah, basically it's my 50 years, nearly 50 years of zookeeping, from sort of very humble beginnings, being a little lad who does all the sweeping up and makes the tea for the others, and ended up as luckily a head keeper looking after some amazing animals. And I've tried to include so many stories in there, amusing ones hopefully, and there's obviously sad ones you will get in any job. But I find that anyone working with zoos or animals will always have stories to tell, always. And I'm just so sort of happy that I've been able to do it, to be honest with you. You know, there are all sorts in there.
When you were planning to write it, was there other Zookeepers books you kind of have read before or were looking at too for?
No, I quite honestly, I've never seen a zookeeper's book. I don't think I'm the first, because there will be others, obviously, but there was nothing to refer to as far as that went. You know, I just thought, well, I'll put down my own stories and go from there. But I read a book by my ex-boss from Marwell Zoo, Mr. John Knowles, which inspired me to do that, and he inspired me to do it. So we just went ahead, to be truthful.
Because this was during lockdown as well, was it, that you started writing?
Yes, it was. Basically, throughout my whole career and towards the end of it, people have said, you know, what do? And you say, oh, I work in a zoo. As soon as you say that, you've got an audience. I know it sounds a bit modest, but you have, oh, what, you know, what's your favourite animal? What's what? And when you sort of start talking, they say, oh, you've got to write a book. You've got to write a book. And I said, no, I can't write a book, you know. And it just happened, you know, lockdown came along, we thought, well, should we do it? And so many people have inspired me saying, you've got to do it. So we started it, and now we've got an end result, which I'm over the moon about, to be truthful.
And where did the title Earwigs to Rhinos, where did that come about?
Ah, well, when I was young, I used to go in South London. We didn't have a lot of playing area. There were old ruins and stuff. But I've always been fascinated by earwigs, all sorts of bugs, but earwigs especially. If you read the life cycle of an earwig, which I won't bore you with now, but it's fascinating. It really is, you know. And I got an absolute obsession about earwigs, and I started breeding them, and discovered later that this was probably my first ever conservation program. You know, I used to breed them and then let them go. And I've always been fascinated. And then in the zoo career, my passion then went from earwigs to absolutely being enthralled and love my white rhinos. They are my passion. And to think of a title for a book is very difficult. It really is. And I went through all sorts of, you know, I didn't want memoirs of a zookeeper or anything like that. And to be honest, it just stuck, if I'm truthful. And I'm thinking a lot of people have said, it's suddenly something that people sort of go, oh, that's a weird title. I wonder what that's about. So that's how that came about.
And I understand within your book, you share some of your early childhood memories of growing up in South London. I was wondering, like, growing up in a busy city, what was it inspired you to work with animals? Was it that insect collecting from a young age and kind of storing things in jars?
Yes, it was, for sure. I've always looked for bugs and things, and anything that flies. If a moth come in the house, I would chase it and identify it, even at an early age. We're talking 6, 7, 8 years old, you know, and always fascinated by that. And I thought, oh, this is brilliant. And then I saw a program, a lot of the older people remember it, called Zoo Time. And on that program, it was from London Zoo, and this gentleman came on with a tarantula spider. She was called Belinda, of all things. And the gentleman there was sort of talking about tarantulas and spiders and all sorts. And I thought, wow, this is fantastic. This is what I want to do, you know. And it just went from there. I had no other interest. I wasn't particularly great at school, not academically charged, and I just wanted to work with animals. That's how it all started, you know, as from that age. And I'm still doing it. I still look for bugs and moths that come in the room.
And what was your family's reaction to your interest in nature and wildlife?
Um, my mum was an animal lover, totally, completely and utterly. Sadly, my father died when I was extremely young, so it's just mum and me. And she sort of encouraged me all the way through. She always had. And when I said to her, I want to work as a zookeeper at London Zoo, I want to work in the insect house, she was over the moon. She absolutely loved it. She said, well, we'll do what we can do and we'll see how life goes. And as it happened, very, great privilege, it happened. But she always encouraged me, always.
She wasn't scared of you bringing in all the creepy crawlies into the house then?
Well, half the time I didn't tell her. What I used to do, I used to hide them under my bed. And I used to have a little mini museum. I had matchboxes with all sorts of bugs in and cotton wool and things. And I used to ask people around and have a look at my collection of bugs. And she found it one day and she just smiled and said, look, this is you, you're not going to change. And luckily I haven't. So, that's the way it was.
People had soft toys and you had your earwigs and your creepy crawlies.
Indeed. But I never killed them. I always found them. And I was rubbish at football and things. So that was my passion. I probably had 30 to 40 boxes hidden under the bed. And jars of all sorts. I've always had something, and it was lovely. That was where I all started.
Did you look after a variety of animals then whilst you're a zookeeper? Or did you?
Yeah. Everything from ants to rhinos, everything in between. My passion still is invertebrates and insects and reptiles, but I've looked after white rhino, which was a joy. All kinds of antelope, big cats, and you never ever stop learning. With animals, there's always something to learn. There's always something to sort of try and investigate and see what's going on. You never stop. So a whole variety of animals. Birds is probably my least. If I can say that, I don't know. But they're still fascinating. You learn so much, and they give you back as well. I must say that these things give you back, except insects. They normally bite you.
Is research into animals and things, is that something that you still continue to do?
Yeah, I just still learn. Yes, I get people sort of on Facebook sending pictures of insects they found in the garden or flying in their house. Oh, Geoff, could you identify this for me? And I enjoy that. I think, well, if I can straight away. But sometimes if people send a beetle, and I think, oh, that's a new one on me. And I enjoy trying to find out what it is. I love learning. I really do. And especially if it's a large beetle of some sort. If you've got 36,000 species of beetle, it can take a little while.
And with your photography things, was that something that you were doing as a hobby whilst you were a zookeeper?
Yeah, I've always done photography. I've always had a passion for it since I was 10 or 11. I love taking wildlife photos. I like being out with the wildlife. And really, when it took off, I was taking various photos around the zoo, and one or two artists said, "Oh, can I paint that?" I said, "Yeah, of course you can." And it went on and on and on. And I was in a very privileged position where someone said, "Oh, could you get a picture of a snow leopard or an animal doing so and so?" I could go home, have a cup of tea, go back in the zoo with my camera. No one's in the park. And I started doing all that. And then originally people said, well, a lot of art sort of exhibitions now, you have to have sole rights images. So you either got to take it yourself as an artist or you buy from somebody. So they're sole rights. They have only one ever copy. So I started doing that. And someone said, look, do it, charge for it. That'll pay for your ink and your paper. And quite honestly, if you go to an exhibition like the SNA and you see a fantastic painting from your reference, it's a lovely feeling. I can't paint a straight line. Seriously, I couldn't paint that wall, but I can press a shutter. That's how that started, and I'm still doing it.
Is this something you've discussed in your book? How photography kind of does that come into it?
No, not really as such. No, 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 it hasn't. To be honest, I didn't know whether to put that in or not. And in the end, I thought, no, I should keep it sort of fairly sort of zoo based. To be honest with you.
There are two big things to cover, I suppose. Maybe the next book.
Oh no, 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 no. I know you're going to do another one, and I thought, oh my goodness me, I loved doing it. I must admit, I loved reminiscing back. But you know, it was hard work. I'll be honest with you. You know, doing the research, I had to get facts right. You know, there's the most important thing in zoo work. You know, because back in the '60s there wasn't internet and records and all that sort of thing. So, but I have been helped by so many people. I really have. You know.
I was going to ask as well, with knowing what to put in your book, did you keep a diary whilst you were a zookeeper that helped you, or did you just all recollect it from memory?
Mainly from memory, if I'm honest, but in the zoo world, you always have a daily diary anyway to write down anything that's happened that day with an animal. It could be looking off colour, it could have had treatment that day. And at the end of the day, in the zoos now, you have what they call a daily report. Head keepers write what's happened that day on a daily report, the staff that are in, and if the animals had medication. And that goes back to the hierarchy, the curators, the directors, so they can see a daily report of what's happened on your section. So that helped tremendously. But no, a lot of it was just going way back, to be honest, and asking other people. Other people were very helpful. Do you remember this? Do you remember that? You know, and luckily they did. So that helped me tremendously.
Are you still in touch with some of the zookeepers who you used to work with? Is it still you're still quite a big part of Marwell itself? Or?
Yeah, I've kept in touch with a lot of people, even back to the '60s. And I was, you know, when I originally put the book on Facebook to start with, thinking, you know, if anyone's there, then I was overwhelmed by the response of people that knew me and worked with me. And oh, you know, we've got to read. Have you written about me? You know, I said no, I can't. You know, I had to be so careful with names. And a lot of them, you know, I still see quite a few, at least a few dozen people that I used to work with. In fact, they've come to my home and picked up a book and we've had a good old chat about the old days. And they're a lovely bunch of people. They really are. But things change. If I went to Marwell now, I think I would know 4 people. That would be it. And London Zoo, like me, they've all retired. So no, that's the way that is, I'm afraid.
I was going to ask, what do you feel like are some of the important goals of a modern zoo now, like with how things have changed?
Oh, they've changed so much. I mean, to me, the most important thing now is education and conservation. That is so important. You know, conservation especially. We know the planet is shrinking, you know, the forests are going, so conservation of that is important. Breeding of the species is important. If we can eventually put some back, that would be amazing. And education is really a key thing. It really is. I mean, most zoos now have got fantastic education programs that work with the colleges. And everything from 6, 7-year-olds right up to A-level students. And the education officers in most zoos now really have got a hard job, to be honest. But to me, that is so important. On the animal side, animal enrichment. You know, all seen the old days of an animal pacing and whatnot, and luckily that doesn't happen anymore because they're enriched with even if it's just a ball with food in, or the cats get a piece of meat tied up in a sack that they've got to work for. That gives them something to do. You know, those are the 3 things really. You know, enrichment, conservation, education is vitally important, because some children are never going to see an elephant or a tiger in their life, you know, in the wild. So we have to promote that, and they're the key elements. Personally, that's what I think.
Did you find it nice? Is it nice then when you're working, when you see like the schools and children and people going about and seeing the animals? Is that nice?
Oh, it's lovely. You know, especially the little ones. I love the little ones. I really do, and their humour and the questions they ask are just unbelievable. And I think it's very important, you know, to do that. And in trouble, you've got to be careful what you say, because if you get a 7 or 8-year-old come up to you and ask you a question, you know, however you answer it, The zookeeper is right. You know, he's spot on. You can't argue. You know, go back to dad and say so and so. No, that's not right. No, the zookeeper said that was right. You know, I just think, well, they're the next generation. You know, I think if you're chatting to someone and you get someone inspired at 7 or 8 years old, could be another Attenborough one day. You just don't know. You know.
What advice would you give to anyone who wants to be a zookeeper?
Oh, it's not a glamorous job. It really isn't. You know, I used to go in thinking I'm going to study animals all day. No, no. You're cleaning up after animals. You're feeding animals. That's hands-on. That's lovely. But you're also dealing with some sad aspects of it. You know, there's always births, deaths, and marriages in animal world in any sort of form. And the other important thing is you have to really be a people person because you're dealing with the public a lot. You know, whether it's where's the nearest toilet or what time do you close or whatever, you know, these people have paid to come into the zoo and you must treat them as guests. And to me, that's important. But if you've got that passion, you go for it. You absolutely go for it. But there are, as I say, it's not a rich man's job, I'm afraid. But the what you get out of it, now, I've always said it's never a job. It's always been a privilege. And you know, that's that's about what I would say about it. You know, you've got to be a people person and work hard. You've got to be fit. That's for sure.
Is there any particular memory you have from the zoo that kind of sticks with you?
My best memories probably are the birth of the first ever snow leopard. That was absolute magic. The first birth was a highlight for me. And the other thing was another highlight was that they're equal just as the birth of our first ever rhino, hence the title. That was a magic. In fact, I've got goosebumps now talking to you about it, I'm afraid. There are some sad bits, you know, when you're expecting a birth and you're going in the morning and you found a birth and it's a stillborn. It's part of it, you know, and you sort of harden to it, but you never forget it. You know, that's the sort of thing that really goes on. And one of the saddest things was obviously foot and mouth when we had that and the zoo was shut, and we was all worried about it. But luckily we got through that with amazing help from the public as well. So there's always highs and lows in any job, but especially animals. Yeah.
And was it really important to you to kind of capture that in the book?
I think so, yeah. I didn't want people to think it's, you know, everything is wonderful, because it's not. You know, you're working hard all day and you can go weeks and weeks and weeks, and suddenly you get something that, you know, is injured itself and sadly has to be euthanized. And you just don't forget that, you know, but it is part of it, to be truthful. And, you know, I thought I'd put something, because I don't want everyone to think it's just a wonderful life, which it is, don't get me wrong, but you must expect, as you said earlier, you know, if someone wants to go into the zoo, they must expect these highs and lows. Because we're all human, we get upset. Of course we do. They're a family.
Did you find it quite emotional, kind of reflecting on the book when you were thinking up your memories and things of what to include? Is that quite a process? Because it's a long time to go through.
Yeah, it was. And yeah, it was, again, highs and lows of emotions, and some things I thought about. And I thought, oh, I must write that. And I thought, yeah, I remember that. And I was elated, you know, and thinking, God, I remember that. I never forgot about that bit. And then you get a few of the sadder bits. But yeah, an emotional roller coaster, as they call it, you know, definitely was a bit of that. But and that's why I wanted to reflect. And hopefully, because I've got a strange sense of humour, I wanted to reflect that all the way through, you know.
Also, will your book is that going to be available at the exhibition at all? Is that something you'll be, yeah?
Yeah, I'm going to set a stand up there. I've been told that, you know, because it's animal book, we can. So I'm going to have a stand there to sell it and sign it, which would be lovely. So I'm looking forward to, I really am. And also because of the exhibition, because it's only once a year, or with lockdown, obviously a couple of years, you meet up with artists you haven't seen for ages. You know, the exhibition's great. It really is, as far as art goes, but it's also nice to meet up with those amazing people that you've known forever uh, and you catch up and have a good old gossip, and hopefully they might buy my book.
I was also reading as well that before the Southern Nature Art exhibition, there was the Marwell Art Society. Is that something that you were involved in at all?
Absolutely, yes. That's what started me off with it. I mean, we knew the guy running it, and working in the zoo, he asked me various, where can we do this, where can we do that, and we set it all up in the Marwell Manor itself. And I wasn't involved with the setting up or anything then, but I got involved as much as I could when the people came in for viewing and to look at. We was at the main gate getting people through, so I knew the zoo obviously with other people quite well. So we would have walkie-talkies back to the Marwell Manor and say 3 more cars coming in, 4 more cars coming in. They would park them, they would go in, and then they get a call back saying, they're coming out the zoo now, so we have to do a one-way. There's more traffic control than anything, to be honest. But that was the start of everything, really. And then when it left there, obviously Nick and Caroline took it over, and we changed. Well, they changed the name, and they're doing a fantastic job. Myself and my wife, we organised the art market. We get all that sorted out and do the pitches and where people are going to go, and that's what's nice. Again, we meet people that we haven't seen for so long. It's a nice sort of family thing, to be honest with you.
So you've moved from, although you're still part of kind of the zoo community and conservation work and that side of things, you now also have the art community.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, and they are fantastic people. Say they're friends. They're not just art colleagues anymore. They're actual friends that we've made, and people are still asking for photos and stuff, which I'll be selling at the exhibition as well, because they just come in and go through the books and say, "Oh, have you got a picture of so and so?" And sometimes I have, sometimes I haven't. So, but not being in the zoo now, of course, I can't get my hands on so many images. But hopefully, I can sort of book people right. And as I say, when you see what they've done with the photos, and my goodness me, I'm quite proud to watch and see them on the wall.
I was going to say, was there any future projects that you had underway now your book's done? Are you still focused on your photography, or you want to do more workshops?
Mainly photography, really. I think, now lockdown's going to be sort of eased completely in one way. I can get out more. I do enjoy my photography. I get up with my camera and I go out. So I've got my plants, which keeps me going. But mainly photography. I'd like to do a bit more of that next year. And there's nothing better than picking up a camera and going out and finding something to photograph. And it's fresh air, keeps you fit, no matter walking you can do. I just enjoy it. I'm not a reader, I'm afraid, even though I've got my book. I must read it, actually.
Should I edit that part out?
That's lovely feedback, and I'm really overwhelmed. I really am. Never thought it would happen, but thanks to a lot of people.
There's obviously like you said, if you don't know anyone else who's released that kind of, there's obviously a gap that's not been filled.
Yeah, there probably is. I don't know, but I haven't found one. I did sort of look up. I just put book by zookeepers or books on zookeepers, but I couldn't find any. Not in this country. I think there's some in America, but a lot of those are sort of scientific-ish, if you like. Mine, I hope, is down to basics, and I'm hoping it'll make people smile. And also, I must say that in there are 12 amazing illustrations by my very good friend Peter Slade, who is an artist, come tattooist, come whatever. The man's talent is incredible, and I asked him to do it, and he said, "Yeah, I would love to. I'd be really pleased to do it for you." So I sent him a rough idea of a story, left it to him, and what he came back with was just unbelievable. It has made the book in my view. And I said to him, "Look, could I have 12? So he said, "Yeah." So I said, "What are you going to charge?" He said, "For 12 of them." And he sort of said, "A4, 12, a cup of coffee." I mean, that blew my mind. But he's that sort of man. honestly. And he'd come to SNA and demonstrates there and brings his artwork there. So lovely, lovely man, you know, and has made the book. I must stress that. If he sees this, which I hope he will, thank you, Peter.
And for the main takeaway you want from this book, you said you kind of tried to keep the humour throughout it, and just kind of want people to make people happy, but also then you've included down to earth, like there's sad parts as well. What's the main kind of takeaway you want?
Oh, I just want, I don't know really, I just want people to enjoy it and smile, but I want them to perhaps reminisce on a few things. You know, some of the older ones who go back, like my age, so that generation, there's some stuff in there that you think, oh, I used to do that. Oh, he was on the streets doing that. I mean, we used to play out till God knows what time when we were 7, 8. And the middle of South London was a community, and there was always, your neighbours weren't your neighbours, they were aunts and uncles. And they would look out for you, you know, and keep an eye on you. And, you know, we had the lady that always washed her curtains once a week. Red cardled the front step, because that's what they did in them days, you know, in their pinnies, you know. And especially South London, it was a bit of a fantastic place, you know, it really was. They go off on their Fridays for their pie and mash. And I just want them to be a little bit of nostalgia, as well as knowing what zookeeping was like and how it's improved, to be honest.
So would you say this book's kind of, you'd recommend it to anyone in a way who's interested in?
I think anyone could read it, to be truthful, because there's nothing in it that's detrimental to anything. And yeah, I think the lady bought one for her 8-year-old last week, which was fabulous. And she said he's reading it and keeps smiling and laughing. So obviously from that age right through, I'm hoping, well, in a modest way, I've had some lovely feedback, so I'm really pleased with that. And yeah, I hope everyone enjoys it and sort of takes what I'm trying to say with it, you know.
And you have a signing as well in Winchester?
Yeah, we've got a book signing in PG Wells, which is an independent bookshop in Winchester, which is really, really nice. That's Wednesday the 21st of July, 2 times, 3 to 5, 6 to 8. Have also this week secured a book signing in Marwell Hotel opposite the zoo on Friday, the 13th, would you believe, of August. Hope it's good. That's 2 till 6, and they've been fantastic. And also, weirdly enough, this morning the Winchester Tourist Board wants to take some copies to sell in there. I went in there yesterday to ask them, and as you walk in Winchester Tourist Board, I don't know if you've been in there at all, they've got 3 huge television screens, and all day long they're showing Marwell, would you believe? Old and new Marwell all day long. So they were very keen and extremely nice people. So they said, we'll check on it, we'll see if we can do it. And this morning, half an hour ago, I got a email saying, yeah, we'd love your books. Come in and we'll sort something out. So yeah, I keep trying to sort of little book signings here, book signings there, but I do a lot of craft shows with other stuff that we do. So I'm going to take it to the craft shows and see if people might like it. If they buy from elsewhere, that's fine, it's not a problem, but I can't sign it for them, which I think is personal. I like the personal touch. You know, I've sent off so many books by post since last week, and I think that's a little bit more personal. You know, even wrapped them myself and sent them off, so that's a personal touch.
It's quite an exciting and busy time for you then.
Oh, it's lovely. As I say, I keep boring myself with those 2 words, overwhelmed and humbled. You know, the people that are coming through, and I think, oh, I remember them. You know, put the address on it, down to the post office. She tries to shut the door in my face because I've got 30 books in a case. I'm not letting you in. No, please. We've got a little bookshop, little book post office, and they have been incredible. They really have. So I signed a book for them and gave it to them because they've been incredible. But you know, it's just nice to do. It's personal. You know, I'm just somebody who wrote the book. I'm not, you know, not very important. I just think it's personal, and I'm very much the personal sort of person.
It shows people are really engaged with kind of what you've written and what you're putting out there. You know, there is the interest for it.
There seems to be, yes, yeah. I mean, now people said, I've got to read it, I've got to read it. I worked with you 20 years ago, I've got to read it. Am I in it? Well, you know, if you've been good, yes. But I had to be careful with names, as I say. You know, I even had to write to Buckingham Palace and phone them up to include Princess Anne, because I had to get permission to use her name and her photo, because we did some work with her and the photos of her in there. And that was weird, ringing Buckingham Palace. You know, that was such a strange thing to do. But again, they were fantastic. You know, I had to just send them what I was doing and they go for it, you know. And if it's wrong, I'll be up the tower next week being beheaded. So.
I was thinking, how do you even ring Buckingham Palace? Is it a general Google search? How do you?
Basically, yes. I just put on there and ring Buckingham Palace, the number, and you get through to the main office, and then they put you through to Princess Anne's or aide or whoever, her office. And I told them what I was doing. Could I put it in writing? Yeah, and they were fantastic. They really were, you know. And it was nice to do that. It was a bit weird, I must admit, you know. But yeah, no, that was the thing. You've got to be so careful with people's names, you know. And some of the people, like actors and actresses that I've worked with animals, I had to get permission to use various things there. But hopefully it'll be all right. You know, I've worked with a lot of film work and a lot of TV work, and I loved it. I loved it.
Well, you've hinted at quite a few spoilers there, so that's more incentive for people to go out and get it to read. Got royalty, animals, actors.
Yeah, we did film work, we did all sorts. So, and that's what made, you know, the book for me interesting to write. And that's what made my career so interesting. You know, it really did. You know, hopefully inspired a few people. And as I said earlier, if one of those becomes another Attenborough, not because of me, but, you know, that would be fantastic.
Well, I appreciate the effort you've gone to be in this interview. And
okay, I've enjoyed it.
And I'll hopefully see you at the exhibition.
Oh, please do. Yeah, no, please come and say hi. And no, you put me well at ease, Abigail. Thank you so much. You really have.
Well, thank you for talking to me.